Love-hate continues. Done. We got the quarterbacks for you here, and we're starting with Thursday Night Football with Joe Burrow. Listen, guys, 53 is the over-under for this game. No surprise, Jay. That is the highest game total of the entire week.
I mean, the last time these two teams played, it was 79. So you got 26 points to play with. We have years and years of experience now that the Ravens secondary cannot handle Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Burrow had one of the best games of his entire career against the Ravens when they played last time until he threw that rough pick at the end. But yeah, I just think this is going to be an offensive explosion. I think Lamar is probably the favorite to be QB1 of the week, and Burrow might be QB2.
No team has a higher pass rate over expected than the Cincinnati Bengals. Teams that face the Ravens average the third most pass attempts. So just those two things, joining forces. And it's worth noting that quarterbacks that throw at least 30 times against the Ravens this year, averaging 23.7 fantasy points per game. No team in the NFL is worse against the pass than the Baltimore Ravens. So yeah, wheels up for Joe Burrow. Proud Fantasy Life investor. He's my QB5 on the week. And, we'll get to this on the Thursday night preview. I think the Bengals might win tonight.
Wow. 6-point dogs.
Yeah.
I like it. Bold.
Definitely. I definitely like this, the Bengals +6. I'll say that right now for sure.
QB5 for Burrow. Right behind him, Brock Purdy, QB6. We've talked a lot about this Bucs defense, specifically on the back end, Matthew. They've allowed 24-plus fantasy points to a quarterback in the 4 of their past 5 games.
Yeah, and during that stretch that you just mentioned, the Buccaneers have also given up 17 touchdown passes. That's 3 more than any other team in the NFL. No team gives it up to opposing quarterbacks like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when it comes to touchdown passes. By the way, the Niners have the second highest implied team total this week. We think they get Chris McCaffrey back. Yeah, he's my QB6. Brock Purdy should have a big game against the Buccaneers off the bye.
Yep, we had a perfect passer rating when they played the Bucs last year. Also a massive rest advantage for the Niners, and this one coming off the bye while the Bucs have a short week and Baker Mayfield's not practicing.
Sam Darnold makes it into the top 10 quarterbacks, Jay. He's got Jacksonville. They're allowing a league-high 23.2 points per game to quarterbacks this season. We've talked about it. Feels like every quarterback has gone off against the Jacksonville defense.
Yep, they have very porous defense at the moment, particularly in the secondary. And I think the thing with Darnold is we kind of got like the full Darnold experience on Sunday Night Football, where I don't think he played particularly well against the Colts, but still able to put up massive numbers, able to get 3 touchdowns. Just this Kevin O'Connell offense, super friendly for quarterbacks, and Darnold taking
This has been such a high floor with Sam Darnold, and you can't ask for a better matchup than these Jacksonville Jaguars. Since week 3, they're the only team worse than them in pass defense is the Ravens. They're 31st against the pass. So I have Darnold as a top 8 play this week.
Some others receiving votes. Aaron Rodgers, he's got Arizona. A great matchup for him. Tua, who's back, and that makes everyone on the Dolphins offense happy. He's got the Rams. So these guys go QB11 and QB12. Not far behind them, Matthew, is Daniel Jones at QB14 against the Panthers.
Yeah, Panthers allowed touchdown passes at the second highest rate this season since week 5. They're giving up over 20 points per game to opposing quarterbacks. Daniel Jones has very quietly been, solid in fantasy. He was a top 5 fantasy quarterback last week. Daniel Jones was. So I like him as a streamer this week in the game in Germany. They're at Carolina, but this is the Germany game. It'll be Sunday morning very early. You mentioned Tua against the Rams. LA's allowed multiple touchdown passes in 3 of the past 4. He's completing 80% of his passes since he returned. I'm a QB12. And just ahead of him, Aaron Rodgers. We've talked a lot about Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams against the Cardinals. Well, it makes sense that we also like the quarterback throwing in the passes. 3 of the past 4 games, at least 17 fantasy points for A-Rod. Since they've traded for Devontae Adams, the Jets are actually top 6 in the NFL in pass rate inside the 10-yard line. They get in close, and as somebody that has Breece Hall on a decent amount of teams, I'm aware. But when they get in close, feels like Rodgers wants to pad the stats and try to get his guys.
Yes, he does.
He wants 5 or 17 to get the ball.
That's President Rodgers to you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Future President Rodgers.
We move to the hate
I think
list.
he's probably future Secretary of Health.
Oh, yeah.
and then he'll move on to vice president or president.
Yeah. That's the order of operations. Yeah. The hate list, listen, Titans-Chargers is the lowest total of the week. It's at 38.5. So Justin Herbert makes the hate list, Jay. He's got the Titans pass defense, which is number 1 in the NFL.
Chargers don't play games where there's 40 points. Like, they just don't do it.
They don't want it.
They don't want to do it. Their defense has been surprisingly good, and then the offense, until recently, had been very run-heavy. They are throwing the ball more, but look, this Titans defense, they didn't sell off as many parts perhaps as people thought, so you still have L'Jarius Sneed, you still have T'Vondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons on the interior, so it's not a pushover. The Titans offense have been their issues have been much more on offense.
Yeah, I mean, they have the number 1 ranked pass defense this year. Now, part of it is because teams haven't had to score that much, teams haven't had to throw that much against them, but still, No team allows less passing yards per game than the Tennessee Titans. You mentioned the over-under, 38.5. It's the lowest total on the slate as well. By the way, the other thing is that Tennessee's given up 6 yards per pass attempt. That's lowest in the NFL as well. So when they are giving up yards, it's like this dink and dunk stuff. And so Justin Herbert, who's playing behind a good, I know we've saw some signs of life and nice game last week as well, but outside my top 15 for the week against Tennessee, I think this is a kind of an ugly slugfest type game.
Russell Wilson outside the top 20. He's QB 21 for you, Matthew. He's got your Commanders, who, this will surprise some people. Since week 4, they're allowing the second fewest points per game to quarterbacks. They've really turned this around.
And they just added Marshawn Lattimore. What? How's that possible? Oh, my God. 5 of the last 6 quarterbacks to face my Commanders have thrown for under 175 yards. Thank you very much. Since week 4, as you mentioned, they allow the second fewest fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. And Russell Wilson, in both of his starts this year, has been under 30 passing attempts. By the way, teams that face the Commanders also average the fewest pass attempts. Now, you think about how this game sort of plays out. Pittsburgh wants to run the ball, wants to slow it down. And because the Commanders are so good on the ground, not just with Jaden Daniels, but also with Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, like they tend to grind out drives a lot as well. They'll have some explosive big plays, some shots down the field to Terry McLaurin to keep defenses honest, but it just doesn't feel like there's going to be a ton of possessions on both sides of the ball in this one.
Our final quarterback here, Bo Nix. He's only got 12.5 points per game in the 4 games he hasn't scored a rushing or receiving touchdown.
Yeah, indeed. And now he gets, I feel like Nix v. Spags is a mismatch. Nix has really struggled against the blitz, against pressure. Now he gets an awesome defense. I think this is going to be a bit of a slugfest this game. So Bo Nix, and those trending in the right direction, and the rushing still provides a certain floor. Very tough matchup for Nix.
Well, and by the way, to your point, when blitz this season, Bo Nix is a bottom 12 quarterback in terms of passer rating as well. Chiefs top 5 in the NFL in blitz rate. You've got a rookie quarterback going into Arrowhead to face Steve Spagnuolo's defense. Like, no thank you. I know Nix has been good so far, but also barely inside my top 20. I'm at QB 19 this week. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.